America's fastest growing TV brand. The Vikings game just ended. What'd you think? Let's hear it. It's Vikings Vent Line. Call us at 651-646-8255 or tweet us at ScoreNorth. Vent. This is Vikings Vent Line.
Nonsense. He goes downfield and wide open is Laquan Treadwell for the touchdown. Everybody sucked up. Cousins went down, and 58 yards later, he's got Treadwell for the score. A deep booming one. Here's a fake. They fake it to Homer, and they've got the first down and more. Travis Homer. What a call. 29 yards on the fake punt. As Homer, the third-string running back, in there on punt.
Well, those were just two of the many plays that we could talk about for hours here, Judd Zulgad. This is Vikings Vent Line on the all-new Score North and the Score North app. The numbers are 651-646-8255, and the phone lines are full right now. We've got Sam, Derek, Ben, Kevin. We're going to get right to your calls in just a second here. Thank you to all of you watching live as well on our Twitter, Facebook, and or Twitch streams. I'll say this is one of the most entertaining Vikings games of the Mike Zimmer era.
That's an understatement, yes.
But I think I put this game in a similar category to the Los Angeles Rams game last year, which was earlier in the year. That was like a late September, early October game where you go in, tough road environment against one of the best teams in the NFL at the time the Rams were last year. You go toe-to-toe. Kirk Cousins plays really well. His interception tonight was the first pick in over 200 throws, a Vikings franchise record, and it hit Stephon Diggs in both hands. So I come away with this feeling that Kirk Cousins came in primetime Monday night, 0-7. He stepped up, and he brought the Vikings back, except for that final drive. But ultimately, the Vikings defense is the thing that was a train wreck tonight and will likely be filleted by the most people on the phone lines.
What? I believe the final stat I saw was 444 yards against Xavier Rhodes again. And here's the problem, week after week after week, Phil, it's only a matter of time before a quarterback decides exactly when and where he's going to pick on Rhodes. And week after week after week now, Rhodes melts down and throws up his hands or tries to look for where the safety help was.
Yeah.
And I thought that there might be some schematic changes made during the bye week because this is definitely an area supposedly of expertise for Mike Zimmer, and it has been previously. But, you're down 34-17 at one point, and you come back, and it's fun to watch. But this was a missed opportunity in a game that you led at halftime, in a game that you let largely slip away, and the frustration of watching this defense again, right? Flail. Today it was the run and the Rhodes play. And so what once was definitely the calling card of this team and what once was definitely a strength has now become a problem. And yes, the one thing that you said that I agree 1000% with was this does not come back on Cousins. Cousins played a nice game. This comes back on the fact that when the Vikings needed guys like Rhodes in their defense to get stops, they simply have proven they're incapable too many times.
This is going to sound crazy, though, because I know the Vikings just gave up 218 yards rushing. It's the second year in a row the Seahawks have run for 200 yards on the Vikings. They just pound it down their throats.
Yep.
And the defense, this is one of the worst defensive performances in the Mike Zimmer era in 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have all of the different 400-yard opponent games on a list here that we're going to get into later in the show. And so, but despite how bad the defense looked, and despite losing this game, is it crazy for me to say that I actually feel okay about the Vikings' chances to go and beat teams in the playoffs? Like they didn't. Yeah, they were down by 17 at one point, but there was a couple crazy things that happened. And
do you think this defense can though now? Do you think if you face elite quarterbacks, do you really think that this pass defense is in a position in a playoff game, especially on the road now, because that's the problem? Do you have confidence that they can beat teams that way? Because I don't.
I don't think it's a black or white thing. I don't think they're going to be favored. I think if they were to play this game in January in Seattle or in New Orleans, obviously the Saints or the Seahawks would be favored in those games. But the Vikings are going toe-to-toe with Russell Wilson in this game. Kirk Cousins went toe-to-toe with Russell Wilson in this game. And even though there's a lot to savage defensively here, namely Xavier Rhodes, who, nice job sort of redeeming yourself by punching that ball out and giving the Vikings an extra possession. But I don't come away from this game thinking all hope is lost. Oh, my God. They have no chance to win a game in January. I mean, they could still finish the season 12-4, and they could still play a home playoff game. They need help now.
And they can
win.
They
need the Packers to lose a game in addition to beating the Packers themselves.
And they can win a playoff game. But do you think that this team is currently constructed defensively can go on the road and pull off a series of playoff wins? I don't feel that. I think they could win a game.
If they have to play 3 road playoff games to get to a Super Bowl, then it's
going to be. But that's why tonight was so key, right?
It was, yeah.
If you win tonight's game, you control your own destiny, basically. If you beat the Packers here, you win the division title. Now you're vying for home field throughout the playoffs, perhaps. You're vying for important games played in front of your crowd. It's frustrating because this whole thing was supposed to be built originally around a defense that in some ways it's not just fallen off now, it's really fallen off.
That's Judd Zulgad. I'm Phil Mackey. This is Vikings Vent Line. We are in the TCL studios here. This is Score North. If you're listening on the Score North mobile app, we appreciate it. It's free to download. If you're watching us on one of our video streams on Twitter, Facebook, or Twitch, please follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram as well. Judd and I are having great hair nights. Not going to lie here. Let's go right to the phone. Let's roll off some calls here. Going to guess there's some frustrated Vikings fans. Sam, you're on the line.
Hey, guys. Thank you for taking my call.
So,
I think the frustrating thing is several-fold. But number one, there's this national narrative, right, that Kirk Cousins doesn't win on Monday in primetime games. He's 0-8 now in Monday Night Football. And as you were saying earlier, like, this really isn't on him. Like, if anything, I think he was really impressive today. Guys were dropping passes. Diggs, the pick went off Diggs. Like, to Diggs, like, if you're going to be waving your arms around when you don't get the ball, then you sure as hell better catch the ball when it's thrown your way and not have it be deflected for an interception, which has now happened, I think, twice. I think the Eagles game happened too. The second point, with the defense, I think the frustrating thing about Rhodes is because of his contract, because he's making, I don't know, $15, $16 million, whatever it is per year, like, you can't bench him for games. Like, I know he went out for a little bit of this game, but it's not like you can just bench Xavier Rhodes and have that go over well in the locker room, no matter how poorly he's playing. So it's something we have to kind of deal with week to week. It was frustrating when he's like freaking out on the sidelines, trying to blame others for not getting help when, you just got burned. Like, you just own up to it and go from there. And the last point I would just say, I've watched a few Monday night games this year, and I'm really like unimpressed with like the broadcast crew. Like, Joe Tessitore treats a 12-yard game like it's a Malcolm Butler pick in the Super Bowl, and Booger McFarland gets simple facts wrong and sticks to like the same talking point over and over. So, it's frustrating, but all in all, like, you're proud of the way they came back, but there are definitely some concerning things going forward. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, Booger, thanks, Sam. First of all, I don't think it would go over poorly at all if Mike Zimmer said, Xavier Rhodes, you're taking a backseat here. You're coming off the bench. When Xavier Rhodes came back after blowing that coverage on that long pass, that long touchdown that broke the game open, he was basically walking up to teammates trying to validate, well, I had safety help, right? No, Harrison Smith was on the line of scrimmage. He was not standing behind. You could see him in front of you on the line of scrimmage, and teammates were like, dude, you didn't have safety help.
But if this was a one-time thing, all right, let's say this was the first time all year, you'd say, okay, that's too bad. It got goofed up. But this is a weekly thing. Yeah. The only question in tonight's game was, when was Russell Wilson going to go at 29? That was the only question. It was coming the entire night. You knew it. And Rhodes he's gimping around. He can't run, Phil. It's that simple. I don't know that he is specifically injured. Watch him try to run. He is hopping. And I think that's him now. And so, yeah, I think if Mike Zimmer said, Xavier, you're going to play a little bit, but you're not going to play as much and you're not going to start, I don't think anybody in that secondary would say, oh, no, he has to play.
He's terrible. Okay. Let's not even, he is now the most penalized defensive player in the NFL. He has 10 penalties, tied for the most of any player in the NFL. He gets burned once or twice a game. And we've gone from naming an island after him. We used to have Revis Island, and now it's Rhodes closed, right? Rhodes Island, Rhodes closed. And now every quarterback in the NFL, not just Russell Wilson, but like all these scrappy dudes with the last name Allen, like that Broncos quarterback.
Yeah, who's been benched.
Like that guy went into the game a couple weeks ago and said, I'm picking on Xavier Rhodes.
Yeah. Case Keenum said the same
where
thing.
we are with this thing. Yes, Case Keenum picked
I
on
don't
him
think
for half.
anybody.
He's terrible.
I don't think anybody with this team in their right mind, if the Vikings decided tomorrow, dude, you're not going to play much, would say that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's awful. This is the sad truth of what happens when a cornerback goes off the cliff. This is it. We're seeing it.
And he's
by the way, he's not coming back. It's not coming back.
In his 3 or 4 year run, he's one of the best Vikings cornerbacks in the history of the franchise for 3 or 4 years. But right now, he's one of the worst defensive players in the NFL. He's just a liability, and he's a big part of the reason why the Vikings gave up 400-plus yards of offense. Now, the thing that shredded them the most, though, was this is now – I just pulled this up on Pro Football Reference. With 218 rushing yards allowed on 43 carries, this is now just the 4th time in Mike Zimmer's career as coach of the Vikings, going back to 2014, that they've given up 200-plus yards rushing. It was the second highest rush yard total allowed in Mike Zimmer's history as a head coach. The only time a team ran for more, 2015 San Francisco Giants in week 1.
Oh, yeah.
Was that the Carlos Hyde game?
Yes.
In 2015?
Yes, it was.
They ran for 230 yards in that game. Gashed at every single corner here by the Seahawks tonight. It's Mackey and Judd edition of Vikings Vet Line. Let's go to Derek. You're on the phone. What's up, Derek?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, man. Fire away.
Hey, all right. I'm just waiting for another mutiny to happen because if it doesn't happen again this time, I mean, it should. Because we're not going to win a Super Bowl under Zim. Zim doesn't even know the identity of our offense. I believe Dalvin Cook is good. Alexander Madison is good. But don't let all those screen passes fool you. We're more successful when we pass the ball. I believe we are. And for Xavier Rhodes, it's funny because why does Zim has he been blackmailed by Xavier Rhodes? Because what is it going to take for Zim to can this guy? But anyway, that's all I have.
Derek, thank you for the phone call.
I'd say that's coming after this year, right? This season? This has to be it. You can't bring him back.
Xavier Rhodes, it's $4.8 million in dead cap money next year.
Yep.
It's $12.9 million cap hit if they keep him for next year. So they can save, if my math is right here, they can save $8 million to the cap next year if they just say goodbye to Xavier Rhodes.
The temptation,
4.8, but
the temptation to play him has to be gone.
Yeah, I mean, I get why this year you're just like, you're kind of pot committed with the defensive. Now there were 2 series after that botched coverage
because he melted down.
Where he threw his helmet on the sidelines and he was not out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back and he made a big defensive play, but it doesn't make up, like making that big defensive play is great, but it doesn't make up for how bad you've been in coverage for a long time this season anyways. Ben in Florida, you're next on Vikings Vet Line.
So, hey guys, I just want to piggyback off that last caller. I don't think he's being black. Xavier Rhodes has something on Mike Zimmer where he's out there on the field all the time. But I will say this, though. I will not be surprised if the front office staff brings Mike Zimmer into a room and shows him tape of Xavier Rhodes, and they tell Mike Zimmer, you are committing defensive malpractice keeping this guy out here on the field. I would not be surprised if the front office people tell him that because they see the same thing we're seeing. It's defensive malpractice right now. That's what it is. And I cannot believe I'm saying that about a defensive-minded head coach. But that's exactly what Mike Zimmer is doing with this defense right now. And you know what? It's a quick fix. Just don't put him out there. Put Mike Hughes out there. Put, I don't know, Holton Hill out there. They can play. They're not terrible players. But putting Xavier Rhodes out there is defensive malpractice. And it literally, in my view, cost you at least 2 games this year. So, it's too bad because I thought Kirk Cousins played well enough for this team to win this game.
Yeah. That's Ben in Florida, bringing the heat.
They scored 30 points.
Good call.
They could have won.
Yeah, offensively, they moved the ball. In fact, they were averaging at one point like 6 yards a play. The Vikings ran 38.
Zim's not going to be pleased. 38 passes, only 14 runs.
This is insane. the Vikings offense averaged just under 7 yards per play in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Just under 7 yards per play. And the Seahawks actually ran 24 more plays than the Vikings did in this one. It's just the Seahawks just grinded the Vikings down, and the fake punt was a devastating one too. Let's go to Kevin. You're on Vikings Vent Line, Kevin.
Hey, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call. I want to start by saying that dude's nuts. What is he talking about? Wide receivers? We don't have any. With Thielen out, Diggs is double covered. We don't have anybody behind that. Who are we going to throw to? There's nobody there. I want to start by saying that I'm not disappointed by this game. This game went how I thought it would. I never saw the Vikings going into Seattle and winning this game. It was physical. Both teams had injuries. They both were just hammering each other. Some of the hits were just unbelievable. Judd, I want to say I got to give Zimmer some credit here. You like to hammer on him for his timeout usage, but the way they handled the end of the first half.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yep.
He did a great job there. They got the field goal there.
You're right.
I thought that was wonderful. I'd also like to say their O-line has got to get better. I know they are beat up, but they look like they were manhandled. Anytime that Seattle sent the blitz, we were overmatched.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a few things I want to say about Xavier. 90% of the passes thrown against him are completed. What a stupid penalty he had by throwing the guy out of bounds. Come on, use your head. Even his token injury, it's always the guy has a token injury. He's got to go off the field. Oh, I'm hurt again. Yeah, it looked bad, but he's always in the medical tent. And then he can't even talk to he can't communicate with Harrison Smith, who is the best safety in the league. And then he wants to go over on the bench and look at him and say, hey, we got to do better. No, you got to do better, Xavier. Your road is closed. Thank you, gentlemen, and have a good day.
Boy, Kevin. By the way, we're gonna make Kevin there. Kevin with
Nice.
With the call of the